second time in history of the AP poll, the second, third, and fourth ranked teams all lost on the same day. Washington lost for the first time this season, losing 26-13 to USC. Michigan also knocked from the ranks of the unbeaten when Iowa's Keith Duncan hit a 33-yard field goal as time expired. Clemson was upset by Pitt when Chris Blewett hit the game-winning 48-yard field goal with 6 seconds left. And Alabama was the only team in the top four to survive, blowing out Mississippi 51-3. Now, because of the wild day, there was a major shakeup in the AP poll here, folks. Alabama remains at number one, followed by Ohio State, Louisville, Michigan, and Clemson in the top five. So, Stephen A., the question is, does it matter who the other three teams are in the college football playoff when it's unveiled tomorrow night, or is it all about your roll tide, baby?
Well, absolutely, roll tide. I mean, it ain't about nothing to me. I said at the beginning of the season that Alabama will run the table, and I meant it. One of my boys, a couple of people. First of all, you got people calling up to my radio show, Sirius XM, Mad Dog Sports Radio, every week, every 1 to 3 p.m. every day, Channel 82. You got people calling up to my radio show. Got one of my boys.
What channel?
Channel 82.
And
82. Mad Dog Sports Radio.
What time?
1 to 3 p.m.
I can hear Stephen A. Smith 1 to 3 p.m. on Mad Dog Radio, Channel 82 every day?
Every day.
Just check.
Every day. Eastern Standard Time. My boy Champ is another dude that calls up all the time to rave about how somebody's going to knock off Alabama. He ain't been right yet this year, okay? You know, he talked about Tennessee, talked about Texas A&M. He thought, don't shout him out. He doesn't deserve, Champ doesn't deserve to be shouted out because he's been wrong on college football, even though he's usually right about a lot of other things, because I got love for him. But here's the deal. The reality of the situation is clear. It's about roll tide, baby. It's them and everybody else. I tried to educate this with Max about this a long, long time ago. Clemson, you know, you lose to Pittsburgh, okay? That's a big-time problem, all right? There's no doubt about that. But my four would be Alabama, Clemson, Louisville, because of Louisville and almost beat Clemson, and I want to see Lamar Jackson, and then the winner eventually of the of that season finale between Ohio State and Michigan. Washington, I was raving about them for the last few weeks, saying they deserve to be in the top four. What I didn't know is that they would get punked on their own home turf by USC. They didn't just lose. They lost. They got beat up. USC beat them fair and square, handily, no last-minute heroics, histrionics, anything. They took them out. And so when I look at that, I say to myself, USC, Helton, he's got them going in the right direction. Give love where it's due. Washington is out of the mix. Texas A&M, you can assume, but they lost so lopsidedly to Alabama. I don't know about that, but I'm thinking about Clemson. I'm thinking about Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, and I'm thinking about the winner of Michigan, Ohio State, because Penn State ain't going in there. I don't give a damn that they beat Ohio State. I'm not putting Penn State in there.
Alabama against the field is looking pretty good. You took also the Cubs against the field, to give you credit. I always like the field against the best team until the best team is down to playing one other team. When the field becomes one, then the best team should win. We're not there yet. Alabama is the Patriots or the Spurs of college football on steroids, because it's a little easier for the most dominant coach in college, I think, to control the quality of the program.
Which is why you should know to agree with me.
However, football's still luck dependent, largely, which is why what Saban's doing is so impressive. Let's get to the 4 teams. Let's get to the 4 teams. No, I'm saying that will influence the outcome of a football game more than, say, a basketball game.
Okay.
Let's get to the 4 teams. Alabama, obviously. Louisville, yes. And then it can't be Michigan, Ohio State, because they play each other at the end of the year, and the 2-loss team ain't getting in. So the winner of Michigan, Ohio State at the end of the year.
That's it.
So who's the 4th team? Look, Washington loses to a red-hot USC team that's very talented. Fine, that's a bad loss for them. However, as someone who just lived on the West Coast for 5.5 years, I can tell you, because of the late start, the late Saturday game, media titans like Stephen A. Smith don't get to see those games to the extent that they get to see the East Coast games. There's an East Coast bias baked in that has nothing to do with liking the teams that you're nearer more. It's just you see them more. The clocks are such that you don't see the late games as much. So they get slept on. But part of a playoff system is that, like in the old days, the World Series in baseball, the NL and the AL never play each other. So in the World Series, you actually get to see the two divisions compete. And I think that there's something to that here. Why not? Just as a Pac-12 team, let's have one representative from the West Coast, if they win out, of course. If they win out and they wind up with one loss to a talented, storied program, right, that was coming on at the time, I don't think that loss is bad enough to keep the only representative from the Pac-12 out of a playoff system.
Clemson lost on a last-second play to Pittsburgh, even though that's a bad loss because Pittsburgh's got 4 losses on the year. Louisville lost in a thriller to Clemson. All right? Washington got beat up by USC. Beat up. And then we look at USC's schedule. Let's look at this for a second, Max. All right, you got annihilated by Alabama to open the season. You beat Utah State. You lost to Stanford, and you lost to Utah. So the three of your first 4 games were against the number 1, the number 7th, and the number 24th ranked team. Ever since then, the only ranked team you played was Colorado, who you squeezed by 21-17. And then, you know, you run over Washington. To me, that's a bad loss for Washington. That's a more devastating loss for Washington than it was for Clemson or Michigan, all right, or Ohio State or Louisville. And the fact that that is the reality is why my 4 is Alabama, Clemson, Louisville, and the winner of Ohio State, Michigan.
Asking who's better, Washington or Clemson?
No, I'm talking about who I want in the Final 4.
I would say Clemson's the better team. I'm saying if it comes to splitting hairs, because you're right about that, although a lot of their losses are early, Washington, and, you know, that's the nature of football. The team changes identity sort of over the course of a season. I'm just saying if it comes to splitting hairs, let's take a Pac-12 team.
Yeah, but you lose 3 or 4 early. Damn it, that's 3 or 4.
Okay, go to break. How about tonight, fellas? 2 of the game's best receivers face off on Monday Night Football. So is tonight a must-win for Odell Beckham and the Giants against A.J. Green and the Bengals? That this work, people. I want to see you here in Bristol. Here's a few of our latest submissions.
Dwayne Wade did make a mistake leaving the Miami Heat for the Chicago Bulls. Have you seen the Chicago Bulls? There's a team that just got rid of Derrick Rose, Joakim Noah. They're in complete, absolute rebuilding mode. And you're going to take the iconic Dwayne Wade and parade him around unceremoniously in his last few years of greatness?
Stephen A., I heard you say you would pick the Heat over the Cavs if Dwayne Wade had stayed, if Chris Bosh was healthy, and if Kevin Durant had chosen the Heat over Golden State. Come on now, you know Big House Games couldn't even make that work. The enthusiasm and the greatness is in Cleveland. I'm going with LeBron James. He's my pick, Stephen A.
Are the Lakers better without Kobe? Yes, much better. And they lost a lot of games letting Kobe shoot 30, 35 shots. Let's not pretend like he was good last year. Let's not pretend like he was useful.
I liked all those.
They were all good, but Brianna throwing in my former legendary coach touched me. Brianna got me there. She brought up my coach.
She did. And she was in a stadium.
Kobe was very useful last year because they kept their top 3 protected pick. So that was very useful of Kobe.
Okay.
Brianna stole it, though.
And now you want to talk about Kobe's usual. You want to be nice at this moment, huh? You've been disrespecting him for the last year.
Okay.
He made that so bad. They kept their pick.
Can we talk about Monday Night Football? We cool? We good? All right. The Giants taking a 3-game winning streak into Monday Night Football tonight against a struggling Bengals team. With a win, New York will remain 2 games behind the Cowboys. A loss would drop them to 3rd place in the NFC East and 3 games back in the division. Stephen A., must win for those G-men?
I kind of think it is. Simply because of everyone in the NFC East winning yesterday. Redskins winning, which I predicted. Eagles winning. And the Cowboys winning, of course, which still makes me sick. But the thing about it is that if you're the Giants, no one in the NFC East has gone anywhere. And it just seems to be the kind of year, which is typical of the NFC East. When you lose at this time of year, it tends to be indicative of what's going to happen to you the rest of the way. Record-wise, no. But I think performance-wise, psychologically, I look at the Giants needing to understand you got to win a game like this because the last thing the Eagles and the Redskins need on the come up is more momentum. You don't want to provide that to them.
They could easily lose this game, and it's not a must-win game. The Bengals are a pretty good NFL team. They're not having a great year, but they're the kind of team that can beat any other team any given Sunday, or in this case Monday. The Giants don't need to win this game because if you look at the way it's shaken out, we thought that the NFC East was so weak that you'd have to win the division to get to the playoffs. As it turns out, it's so strong. Look at their out of division records in the NFC East. They're whooping up on the rest of the NFC. That it's likely that at least one wild card comes from the NFC East. Here's how it is a must-win game. The Giants can still win this division. They need to pick up 1 game on the Cowboys
and then beat
them. And then if they beat the Cowboys, they got both games against the Cowboys and a better record. All they got to do, or the same record, all they got to do is pick up 1 game on the Cowboys before week 13, and they can still win the division. So win the division must win, yes. Make the playoffs, no.
Here's my biggest problem with what you said. You said the Bengals are a good team.
Yeah.
They're not a good team.
They're okay.
Let me finish. They're not a good team. They're a team with good players. There's a difference. They're dysfunctional. They're a roller coaster ride. They're Six Flags, baby. That's what you should call them, Six Flags. The Six Flags Bengals. That's who they are because they're that dysfunction. You can't rely on them. You can't trust them at all. I can trust A.J. Green. I can trust Hill
I think
ball.
they're going to play tough tonight,
Hill
though.
ball.
What I mean is they're a typical
Jeremy Hill will ball. Andy Dalton's balling.
They're a typical 8-8-ish NFL team, and so are the Giants, except that they have a two-time MVP.
That is the second
Super Bowl MVP quarterback and Odell Beckham.
That is the second time in this show and about the 20th time since you've been here that you've alluded to mediocrity being good. I'm tired of that. 500 is not good, Max Kellerman. It is not good.
It ain't bad either.
It's mediocre.
That's right.
It's average.
Most of the league.
We don't like average.
That is not average.
500 is
average. What is wrong with y'all?
Average, 500. I'm not saying average is good. Relax. I don't like average either.
Most of the league is like the Bengals. Few teams are like the Patriots
around with
and
a
Seahawks.
Tom Ford suit looking all sharp, but then you're going to bring up average and mediocre as being average? You don't know how to dissect the difference between the two? What has happened to you?
Seahawks were going to beat
What has happened to you?
What do you mean who doesn't know
I
how
don't
to
know
dissect?
about that. I don't understand.
I told you Russell Wilson went out
I
playing.
don't understand you, man. I mean, come on.
Giants going to win this.
Goodbye, everyone.